James Rodriguez wiped sweat from his brow as he loaded the last of his equipment into his pickup truck. The logo, Rodriguez Landscaping, Beauty by Design, was still fresh on the door. His 3-month-old business was starting to gain traction in Oakwood Hills. As he closed the truck bed, the sharp click of heels on pavement made him turn. A blonde woman in designer sunglasses and what appeared to be a tennis outfit was storming across the street, phone in hand. "Excuse me, you, Gardner." The woman's voice cut through the peaceful neighborhood like a chainsaw. Before James could even respond, she thrust her phone in his face, displaying photos of her lawn. "This is unacceptable. My regular lawn service canceled last minute, and I'm hosting the Neighborhood Association brunch tomorrow." James extended his hand professionally. "I'm James Rodriguez, owner of Rodriguez Landscaping. I'd be happy to schedule you for—" No, she interrupted, waving her manicured hand dismissively. "You don't understand. I need it done now. You're already here with all your equipment." She gestured vaguely at his truck. "Mr. Chamberlain next door said he only pays you $30 for the whole yard anyway." James frowned. Mr. Chamberlain paid his standard rate of $85. "Ma'am, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding." "Patricia Willington. Everyone knows me here." She removed her sunglasses dramatically. "My husband is treasurer of the HOA. We can make things very difficult for businesses that don't cooperate with community needs." As she smiled coldly, James noticed the neighbors who had gathered on nearby porches, watching with knowing expressions. One elderly woman across the street caught his eye and subtly shook her head in warning. 3 days later, James stared at his business phone in disbelief. 17 missed calls, all from the same number. The voicemails escalated from demanding to threatening. "This is Patricia Willington calling again. Your behavior is completely unprofessional. I've spoken to several of your clients about how you discriminate against certain households. My husband is preparing to discuss your business practices at next week's HOA meeting." James set his phone down and opened his laptop, only to discover something worse. A 1-star review had appeared on his business page. *AVOID This so-called landscaper refused service based on neighborhood location, rude and discriminatory practices, would give 0 stars if possible. *. 3 more negative reviews appeared within hours, all from accounts created that same day. The next morning, while James was carefully trimming Mrs. Gonzalez's prized rose bushes, a black Range Rover screeched to a halt at the curb. Patricia emerged, designer handbag swinging wildly as she marched across the lawn, trampling a row of freshly planted marigolds. "You have time for this old lady but not for me," she shouted, loud enough for the entire street to hear. Mrs. Gonzalez, an 78-year-old widow who had become something of a grandmother figure to James, emerged from her house using her walker. "What is happening to my flowers?" she asked, her voice trembling. James watched in horror as Patricia spun around, momentarily startled, before composing herself into false sweetness. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to get this young man to honor his commitments." She turned back to James, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "My yard, today. All those reviews are just the beginning." Against his better judgment, James arrived at Patricia's immaculate 2-story colonial home at 5:30 p.m. What he saw made his stomach drop. The previously tidy yard was now littered with trash, fast food wrappers, empty bottles, and newspapers that appeared deliberately scattered. A lawn chair was overturned, and potting soil was spilled across the walkway. Patricia emerged from her front door in pristine white pants and a silk blouse, hardly the attire for yard work or cleaning. "Finally, it looks terrible, doesn't it? This all blew in from the new development down the street. Those people have no standards." James knew the trash couldn't have blown in. Some of the items were deliberately placed, including a stack of magazines weighing down a garden hose. "Here's what needs doing," Patricia said, handing him a handwritten list. James scanned it in disbelief. "Mow front and back lawn. Edge all walkways and beds. Prune all shrubs and hedges. Clean gutters. Power wash driveway. Remove all trash. Replant disturbed areas in garden. This is at least 8 hours of work, James said. Patricia shrugged. Better get started then. I'm late for my book club. She dangled her car keys. Oh, and I'll expect this to be complimentary service, of course. For the asterisk community asterisk. The way she emphasized the last word felt like a threat. As James reluctantly began collecting trash, he noticed a slight movement at the kitchen window. The glint of a phone camera pointed in his direction. Something wasn't right. Psst, hey man, hold up. James turned to see a man in his early 30s approaching from the house next door. He wore a NASA shirt and looked nervously over his shoulder. I'm David, I live next door. He lowered his voice. You need to stop what you're doing right now. What's going on? James asked, already setting down his trash bag. David showed James his phone, a neighborhood app chat where Patricia had posted just 20 minutes earlier. Asterisk caught the landscaper who's been stealing from garages in the act. He's at my house now, cleaning up after I confronted him. Police have been called. Be vigilant. Neighbors. Asterisk. James felt the blood drain from his face. What? I've never. I know. David interrupted. She pulled the same stunt with a window cleaner last month. Claimed he broke something valuable to get free service. And the plumber before that accused him of tracking mud to get a discount. From behind David, an older woman emerged from the adjacent property. I've got the recordings, she said, holding up a security camera app on her iPad. I'm Helen. My cameras cover part of Patricia's yard. Been documenting her incidents for months now. David nodded. After what she did at Mrs. Gonzalez's place, yeah, word travels fast around here. Several of us decided enough was enough. A car door slammed, and they turned to see Mrs. Gonzalez herself being helped out of a sedan by a young woman. That's my daughter Lisa, David explained. She's an attorney. Mrs. G called her after the flower incident. Helen smiled grimly. Patricia picked the wrong neighborhood to terrorize, and definitely the wrong landscaper. Patricia emerged from her house, phone recording, just as a police cruiser pulled up. Her triumphant expression faltered when she saw the small crowd gathered in her driveway. James, David, Helen, Mrs. Gonzalez, and Lisa, in a crisp business suit. Officers, thank goodness you're here. This man, Patricia began dramatically, is the victim of an attempted scam and false police report, Lisa finished, stepping forward with her business card. Lisa Connor, attorney at law. We have multiple witnesses and video evidence of Mrs. Willington's pattern of harassment, defamation, and now, filing a false police report. The officers looked between the two groups, confused. Check her phone, David suggested. She's been recording while setting this whole thing up. When Patricia instinctively clutched her phone tighter, one officer raised an eyebrow. Ma'am, we're going to need to sort this out. What followed was a spectacular implosion. Patricia's husband arrived home during the commotion, and his face fell as he learned what had been happening. This isn't the first time, he admitted wearily to the officers, avoiding his wife's furious glare. 3 weeks later, James arrived at the community park to set up his new booth at the Oakwood Hills Spring Festival. His business had exploded. Turns out that having prominent community members vouching for your integrity was better than any advertising. Mrs. Gonzalez sat in a chair beside his booth, handing out flyers with her personal guarantee of his services. Look who decided to join society, Helen muttered, nodding toward the park entrance. Patricia and her husband walked in, both looking subdued. The community service vests they wore were bright orange with Neighborhood Beautification Volunteer printed on the back, part of their settlement agreement with the homeowners James had documented in Patricia's harassment campaign. As they began picking up litter around the park, David appeared with cold lemonades for James and Mrs. Gonzalez. Heard they're selling their house, he said casually. Something about a job relocation. Mrs. Gonzalez hummed, adjusting her sun hat. Amazing how opportunities arise right when you need to leave town. James watched Patricia bend to pick up a candy wrapper, designer sunglasses replaced by practical work gloves. He smiled and turned back to greet his newest client. He'd learned something valuable through this ordeal. A business built on respect and integrity would always outlast one woman's entitlement, especially when an entire neighborhood decided that enough was enough.